Top 10 listening strategies in the IELTS exam. So hello everybody, we are live. Let's get started. This is probably the most important live that you've ever watched in the topic of listening exams. So, what time is it? Okay. Let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, if you don't know my name, by the way, my name is Mehshad Mina. Everybody knows me as Shad. I'm an English language professor at the university, and I'm also an IELTS exam specialist. So I've helped hundreds of students in the past 10 years get their IELTS certificate, and I also had over thousands of students improving their English, including the listening. So, by the way, if my voice is not clear, I hope my voice is clear, but if it's not, just let me know. And Mika just left a comment. Thank you very much. Love you, Mika. All right, so if you have listening exams, well, this is specifically for IELTS, but a lot of the strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you, you can apply it to any other tests too. Or you can also apply it to improve your listening in general. Okay, so some of the tips, some of the strategies are specifically about IELTS, but a lot of them you can use it in the TOEFL test, in the Cambridge exams, or any other English language listening test. Okay, so you can use them for those purposes too. All right? Well, I'm going to go each by one, okay? So I'm going to put each strategy around this circle, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips, strategies, some of the things that are necessary about that. But if you feel that you have questions or something's not clear, or you want to know more about any part of what I'm saying, leave it as a comment in the chat box. Every now and then I'll go behind the camera, I'll check your comments, and I try to answer the question if it's related to the topic. I remember the very first time when I was a kid taking a test, a listening exam, and I didn't practice at all because I was like, okay, well, my listening is good. Well, my English is good. I had this wrong idea in my mind. Okay, my English is good. I don't need to practice for the exam. I just need to go do the test, get out of the room. Everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to get a very high score, and that's it. So that was my thought, that if my English is good, I don't need to know any strategies. I don't need to know any techniques or tips or I don't know, like structure of the test. I was like, as long as you have a good English level, you can take the test and you can get a high score. I went to the test room. So here's what happened. This is my first experience taking a listening exam in English. And okay, the examiner, they brought the papers. They gave us, okay, our locations, and they said sit down, okay. And then there were invigilators, proctors, I mean the people who watch you not to cheat. And they gave us some instructions. They gave us the paper, the exam paper, and I sat down. I think I was a little bit nervous too, but I mean I didn't care that much. I was like, okay, yeah, I know how to speak English. I get a good result. And I remember I sat down waiting for the audio file. Well, at that time, we didn't have, it was like an old tape recorder with cassettes. Like it was a long time ago. Well, not that old, but at that time, I don't even think there were CDs. So the moment they played the audio file, people started talking, having a conversation. Hey, we're at the museum, like blah 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 blah. Like I remember, it was so fast. They were speaking so fast, and I had the exam paper in front of my eyes. I got so confused in the test because I didn't know, okay, where am I going to focus now? Do I focus on the question? Do I have to read? Do I have to focus on the listening file? I couldn't concentrate on the listening and the text and answering and reading the options and seeing what the instruction is. Like, everything was a mess. So, long story short, I did a terrible test that day. So, and I was wrong. I thought, okay, if my English is good, that will be enough. It wasn't. So after that, when I went to the process of becoming a teacher and a better student, so I read books and I watched a lot of videos and I took a lot of courses, and I realized that it doesn't matter what level of English you have, you must know the exam structure, the specific exam structure. You need to know some certain strategies and techniques before taking the test. Okay, so a lot of you might already have a good level of English, but that was what I was recommending my own students. Some of my students are gonna have, or already had, some of them already had an exam. And they were like, oh yeah, our level of English is okay, so we don't have to go prepare for the exam. And I was like, no, guys. They had TOEFL. And I was like, hey, that's not how it works. You have to know the structure of the exam. You have to know the techniques. You have to know the strategies. Even if your level is good, you are B2, C1, C2, whatever, you have to know, you have to go and learn about the test itself. Okay, so I hope they did. So that was a different class. But we're going to see what some of these important strategies are. Okay, before I get started, I'm gonna just check to see if everything is fine. Alright, I think everything's fine. Okay, let's go. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is active listening. Active listening. So what does active listening mean? If you know what it means, you can type it in the chat. But if you don't know, here's what active listening is. It's very different when you're taking a test and when you're watching movies or series. Why not? Because when you're in a cinema or when you're in your Netflix watching movies with your friend, you're not concentrated on what the people are saying fully, okay? Which means part of your attention is on the screen, on the actions, on the person, the people who are talking. Oh, this lady is beautiful. Oh, that car was nice. So your attention is like divided into different things. You're talking to your friend or maybe girlfriend, and a little bit of your attention is on your food, on your popcorn, a little bit on the listening. So, or maybe you're watching the subtitle. So you see your attention is going all over the place. However, in a test, in a listening test, you cannot do that. You have to focus on the audio file, and the text 100%. So you have to ignore, you have to block out basically everything else in the room, in the exam room. Because in the exam room, you have a couple of people around you sitting, other test takers, you have the examiners. You have to block everything out. Okay, so your 100% focus should be on the listening. Okay, if you have headsets or if there is speakers somewhere in the room, you have to focus on the listening and focus on the text. Okay, so these are the two areas that you have to give your 100% focus. Obviously, most of your focus has to go to the audio file because you're seeing the text. So you're not paying attention to someone else is doing something, or another person is crying, or another person is moving. You're not looking at anywhere. 100% focus on the text and on the listening file. So there is a difference, right? Because sometimes we are paying attention like 80%. 20% of our mind is like going all over the place. You're thinking about, oh, I forgot to put gas in my car, or oh, I forgot to call my girlfriend, she's gonna be mad. Okay, so you have to bring all those little percentages of your attention that is flying all over the place with right now with this attention span that we have. You have to bring 100% to the listening file and to the text you have. Okay, block everything out. So this is the most important thing during the exam. This is for when you're taking the exam, in the middle of the exam. Okay, number 2. By the way, again, if you have questions, you could type the questions. If not, I'll continue. Number 2. All right. This is a big problem for anybody. Different accents. Okay, so this is something that I don't know. I think everybody nags. Everybody is annoyed. Everybody is like, and they think, oh, everybody in the world has to speak American English or Canadian English or British English. But that's not how it works. Like, if you speak English, you should be able to understand everybody in the world that speaks English. This includes people from South America, Mexican accent, Ecuadorian accent, Argentinian accent, English, Argentinian English, Mexican English, right? Europeans, again, French English, Canadian English, also British English, African English, Indian English, okay, you name it. Everybody in the world that speaks English, they have their own accent that comes from their first language. So you cannot say, oh, I just understand British people or I just understand American people. No. If you have that problem, you have to fix it. Because in a test like IELTS and many other tests, they're not going to play only American accent or British accent. They're going to play a variety of different accents. So when you know that, you have to be able to familiarize yourself with those accents. So how do we do that? So first of all, for example, in the case of IELTS, most of it is British. Like, there are 4 parts to the test. It's mostly British. But when I say mostly, it's not like 90%. It's like 60%. Sometimes even half of it is British. But the rest, you see all kinds of accents. Okay, so you cannot just practice British. Now, in order to improve this problem, this skill, you cannot travel, well, unless you have a lot of money, and you can travel and live every month in one different country and speak English to those people. For the rest of you that cannot travel, what you should do is you should use media, okay? So everybody has these days Netflix. So the things that you watch, you have to range it. This is for people who are improving their English or they're planning to take a test in the future, okay? You have to divide the things that you're watching into sections. What do I mean? So for example, if you're watching series, if you're a fan of series, you have to watch some series that are in British English, okay? That people speak like strong British accent. Not just British, also is not just one, it's a lot. Every part of Britain, they have their own British accent, which is sometimes super different from one another. Okay, so you have to watch some series in English, British English, some series in American English, some series or movies that are produced by French, let's say, by Germans, maybe some movies that are produced in India, but they speak English in that movie. Okay, so that's one thing if you're a fan of series. If not, if you're a fan of news, you watch news, you follow news a lot, that's even better. BBC channels, like BBC has, like the BBC Broadcasting, they have all kinds of, let's say, media, from sports, from movies, documentaries, news, all kinds of things. So you can focus some part of your attention watching BBC videos. Okay, you could get it directly live from their website or from satellites, YouTube, internet. You could find it easily. So British English from BBC. In the case of United States, American English they have so many news channels, from CNN, from Fox News, from you name it, CNBC, ABC. There's so many channels, and the anchors, the journalists, the people who speak there, they have like really good accents. So it's gonna help you a lot. Okay, so that's what you can do to improve your accent. Okay, you have to practice a wide variety of different accents. Watching movies, news, whatever kind of media that you like. I just mentioned two of them. Could be podcasts, Spotify podcasts, YouTube podcasts, Apple podcasts. Right now, podcasts are even more common than movies or series or even news. So find your favorite people, but in different countries and with different accents, and start listening to those people. Okay? That's how we can improve the accent problem. Before I go to number 3, okay, if anybody has questions, Diana says, I love British English. So you have to practice British English. You have to watch British English better, more often. All right, I'm going to go to number 3. Question types. If you're watching this live, please share it. Share it right now with other friends of yours. If you think any of your friends is gonna take a listening test, an IELTS listening test, or any other listening exam, or you think this is gonna be helpful for them, share the live right now. Send it to a couple of your friends. Maybe they're in the house, they're not doing anything. They can come and watch us. So question types. This is specifically about the exam. Okay, so this was something that really challenged me the first time that I took the exam. Because I was like, okay, there are going to be a couple of questions, maybe multiple choice. I have the question, and then there are A, B, C, and D, maybe, and then I have to answer, and that's it. That's the idea that we have of an exam, right? Normally it's I don't know, a lot of exams are multiple choice. In the case of IELTS and in the case of other exams, every exam like TOEFL or Cambridge, each of those tests have their own question types. In the case of IELTS, for example, we have about 7, 8 different question types. Multiple choice is one of them. Imagine. And the multiple choice itself is like 3 different types of multiple choice questions. There's one multiple choice that you have to choose one option only. There's another multiple choice that you have to choose 2 options. There's another multiple choice question that has 6 options, and you have to pick up 3 of them. Okay? So, and the instruction is different for each of those multiple choice questions. So it's very different. If you don't know which type you're getting, you don't know what to do. You think, okay, that's just one option. Circle, go. No. If you don't know that before, you're going to mess up. And then there are all kinds of other question types. There is multiple choices. One of them, labeling map. So they're going to give you a graph or map with all kinds of locations that are empty. You have to write your answers inside that label. Okay? It's a kind of gap fill. And then we have gap fill, where there's a gap, and that has also a lot of different types of gap fill. And it's not just one. Because people are saying, okay, there's going to be a sentence, there's a word missing in the middle. No, that's not how it works. There's all kinds of gap fill. There could be a chart that has some missing parts, gaps. There's no sentence. It's just bullet points. There could be sentences. There could be a gap fill question with a list of words on top. There could be a gap fill question with no list of words. Okay, then what do you do? For each of these question types that I mentioned, there is a different strategy. Well, we don't have time to go through all of those question types here in this live. Maybe in other lives, if you guys have any question types in your mind, you can type it in the chat, and then I'll talk about it. But there are so many question types, so we can't go into all of them right now. We teach. I've made probably 20 hours of videos in my courses, in my IELTS preparation programs, just talking about the question types in the IELTS test, not just listening. I mean, in the writing, in the speaking, because you have to know the question types. You have to know how to approach it. You have to know what the instruction is. You have to know what strategies to use to answer that specific question type. Or otherwise, you're not going to be able to answer it. Okay? So you need to know the question types. You have to do a lot of exercises for each question type. You have to be familiar with all the instruction of each question type. And that's how you can answer all question. All right. Next. Let's see. Any question? Not any question. All right. Next one, number 4. Predict. Predict answers. Is everything visible here? I think it is. Okay. Okie dokie. What does that mean? Okay. So when the audio file is playing, you have to have a, what you might call it? You have to be able to anticipate. Okay, anticipation here is important. Why? Because imagine you have a tour guide speaking at a museum, giving directions, and he's gonna say, okay, hey guys, I'm gonna give you instruction on going to each part of the museum, and then I'm gonna tell you the room names or numbers. I'm gonna give you some locations. I'm gonna give you the dates of when each of those I don't know, pieces was founded. Okay, did you hear what I said? Dates, numbers, rooms, I don't know, directions. So when the person is talking about these things, you have to predict, you have to anticipate, you have to prepare yourself. Hey, oh, he's going to give me a number now. I'm waiting for the number. So the first room number is da-da-da-da. Oh, that's probably one of the answers I need. Okay, obviously you're looking at the text, no? So you are looking at the text. You know what's coming a little bit from predicting what's coming, what's in the text. But when the speaker is talking in the audio cassette or CD or whatever, you can also predict. So he's going to talk about dates. Oh, so there's a number coming. Oh, there's a name coming. There is a location coming. So before they even say that, they give you a little bit of context so you can be ready for the word that's coming. Bam! So the moment that comes out of their mouth, you can write it. Okay, so prediction. And sometimes this prediction is not about the text, it's not about the audio file, but it's about the text. So what does that mean? So for example, you have the text in front of you, you have a gap fill, and you read the sentence, and you see, okay, let me see what kind of a word is missing inside this gap. So this could be a noun, or an adjective, or an adverb. Okay, so based on the grammatical function of that sentence, you can predict what word is missing in that gap. That's another way of prediction. Okay, again, we don't have time to go deep into this, but this is going to be helpful. All right, next. Oh, I like this one. Synonyms. Jesus Christ. Synonyms and paraphrase. This is probably the biggest problem that people have when they take a listening test. Why? Because you think you have the questions and you have the audio file, but then you are expecting that whatever that is in the audio file is going to be in the text. So they're going to say what you have to write, and then you write it. No, my friend, it's not going to be that easy. Impossible. What they do instead, they use synonyms and paraphrased version of what you see in the text. So, for example, you have a text, a question that says, let's say it's a true-false question type. You have to say yes or no. And the question says, the restaurant is next to the bank. Okay? And the person in the audio file is giving direction. And they say, okay, the bank is by the restaurant. By the restaurant next to their bank. Are these the same? Yes, they are. Because they are synonyms. You can say something is by another thing or is next to that thing. There are other words, by the way, for next to. You can even say adjacent. Ooh, have you heard that word before? They might say that. So that's one example, huh? You hear something and there is something written on the text and they don't match. They say, "Oh, that's probably not my answer." Oh, it turns out that it is your answer. So a lot of times they use synonyms. A lot of times they paraphrase it, which means there is the same sentence in the text. They say the same thing in a different way. Okay? There's an active sentence, they say it in a passive form. Okay? Almost never they use the exact same thing. So prepare yourself, ladies and gentlemen. You have to learn a lot of synonyms, a lot of paraphrasing. When you write, when you speak, you have to do that. You have something, you have to be able to read a text, a piece of text, and say it in your own words. Okay? Right now everybody uses, they copy from here and there, so they don't learn how to paraphrase. You should be able to paraphrase. If you can't, if you don't, then in the listening test and also in the reading test, they do these. And you are reading the same text and you are seeing the answer and they look the same but they're not the same, and you get confused. In the reading, it's also the problem. In the listening, again, that's the problem. And if you don't know it, you probably say, "Oh, that's probably not my answer. I don't do it." Again, in our programs, in our courses, preparation courses, I teach you how to paraphrase, how to learn how to paraphrase. We got a lot of materials on different words and topics that are in the test, so you would learn the synonyms. A lot of synonyms for different topics. But in general, this is something you need to know about. Okay, let's go to the next one. Again, I'm gonna check. If you guys have any questions, just type it in the chat. Next. I'm gonna go faster because it's gonna take long if I don't. Strategy number 6. Context and, very important, signal words. What are these? Context and signal words. Anybody knows what this means? Or what these mean? Okay, so in the listening file, in the audio file, they're talking about something. Let's say it's a university professor giving a lecture, and you have a text, let's say a summary of the lecture. Okay, there are some words missing, some gaps. When you know the context, okay, that's a lecture, this is a summary of the lecture, so it's probably going to paraphrase some sentences, and it's going to give me the words that I need to put in the text. Now, the signal words here are the words that can help you go to that part of the text that you need. So there's a big text, there are different words missing, okay? But the signal words help you to go to that part that you need to go to. What does that mean? For example, words like firstly, secondly, finally, right? When you see, okay, the first thing that he's going to talk about, okay, it's the beginning of this paragraph. I'm going to focus on that part of the text and listen carefully. That's the first idea. So these signal words are going to help you a lot to know where to focus on in the questions. Okay? There are other words, for example, words that are contrasting. So for example, nevertheless, however. So for example, you see they're talking about an idea, and they say, however, here's the other part of the story. Okay? And then you're seeing in the text, you see a synonym of maybe however. You see nevertheless. You see nonetheless. Okay? Or other words to add more information, like moreover, additionally. So these words, especially the ones that are at the beginning of paragraphs or sentences, they're signal words. Again, they're not going to use the exact words. You have one word in the text, they use the synonym in the audio file. But if you are careful about those words, say, oh, here's the part. I have to focus. So keep in mind, signal words. Again, if you have questions about any of these tips, strategies that we were talking about, type it in the chat and wait for me for the end of the live session. I'll answer you. Okay? I may even bring you up to the live so you can ask your question face to face on a video. On a split screen. Next. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one. Visual cues. Anybody knows what this means? Visual cues. No? So this is another thing that people get really confused. They think, oh, question types is only going to be one type of question. This is actually about the question types, the visual cues. Because some of the questions are not questions. Some of the questions in the listening test are actually maps, or graphs, or charts, or table, or pies. Could be lots of things. Some of them are actually not questions. So you have a map with a lot of different locations and pieces and different things, and there's a little bit of instruction at the top, and then you just have to focus on the places. There's a street coming, there are jungles around there, there's all kinds of things. Okay, so your focus should be on the visual cues. Oh, there is a restaurant here, and then there is a bank over there, and down the street there are some schools. And then when they're talking in the audio file, you look at your visual cues. Oh, there is a bank. Oh, they're talking about the bank. Oh, they're talking about the Fifth Avenue. Okay, so you have to pay attention. There's no text here anymore. It's just the cues. And then that's how you can follow the audio file and match it with the listening. Or if there's a chart, the same thing. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Oh my God, this one. How many times should I mention that? I probably made a lot of videos about this one. But I'm going to repeat it. Time management. Wow, time management. Why this is important? Remember at the beginning of the live I said the first time I took the test, I sat down, I waited for the examiner to bring the paper, then I waited for them to give me the instruction, then I waited until they play the audio file. I was wrong. Why not? Because I shouldn't have waited. I should have started reading the paper. So, in the case of the listening test, in the case of IELTS specifically, you have a couple of seconds, about 30 seconds, in some cases 45 seconds before the audio file starts. So that 30 seconds is your lifesaver, because you can immediately jump into the text, read that part to see what they want, to see the things that are asked, to understand the context, to understand the question, to read the instruction. Okay, so you go skim everything in that part before the audio file starts. Then when the audio file starts, you know, okay, now I know. So this is very important, time management. Now, the other thing is, so this was before the audio file starts. There is another one that is for after the audio file starts. The audio file finishes. So again, in the case of IELTS, when the audio file finishes, you have about, again, another 30 seconds to check your answers, to check the spelling. Did I spell the words correctly? Did I answer all the questions? So, but some people just wait. Oh yeah, I finished this part, let's wait until the next part. Nope. You shouldn't do that. So, use your time wisely before the audio file starts and after the audio file finishes. Again, there are a lot of things you should do in those two sections. We don't have time in this live to go all over the place and talk about all of those details, but make sure you know that. Next, strategy number 9. Vocabulary and we can see it, word recognition. What does that mean? Well, obviously you have to improve your vocabulary in general, but word recognition is the next level. So a lot of us, we know that, okay, water means that liquid, well, this liquid that we drink. However, I don't know how many of you know that water can also be used as a verb. You can water the flowers. Now, I'm using water as a verb. Okay? And many other words, when you learn them, when you practice vocabulary, you have to learn all the word family in that area. Okay? So, if you learn photo, then you also have to learn photography, and then you have to learn photograph. You have to also learn photographer, the person. You should also know photographic and adverbs. So you have to know all of those other words in that family, what they are, what they mean, and in the case of the exam, are they verbs, adverbs, adjectives, nouns, whatever. Okay? Because when you're listening to the audio file, you would see, oh, here, I need a noun. Probably that's the word that's missing. Da, 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 da. I put the word recognition. Let's say the word that we are missing is recognition. But in that sentence, the word that was missing was not a noun, was a verb. So you actually needed the word recognize instead of recognition. So that's a big problem. Okay, sometimes you hear that. In the case of gap fill, you always hear the exact word that you need to put in the gap. But if it's a multiple choice or other types of questions, they're going to play with those words. They're going to paraphrase them. One of the ways that they paraphrase is actually this. You have a verb, they say the noun. You have the adjective, they say it in a different way. They play with the sentence. So you have to be able to recognize the words. Okie dokie. We're getting to the end of this live with the last one, which is so obvious and people don't pay attention. For fuck's sake, practice. Okay? A lot of my students come to me when they have a test, or a lot of people who want to take an international exam like IELTS. Say, okay, how long do I need to practice? Like, is 2 weeks enough? Is like 1 month? I can't understand movies. Like, we go to the movies, I just understand 30% of it, and I've been learning English for like 10 years. I still don't understand the movies. Guys, this is a skill. Listening is a skill. Okay? Which means it doesn't matter if you're intelligent, doesn't matter if you're dumb, it doesn't matter if you have a 150 IQ or an 80 IQ. It doesn't matter. This is a matter of repetition. It's like going to the gym. You can't just go to the gym and become big. You have to go and go and go and no result and no result, sometimes for years. Until little by little, you get better. This is a skill. So skill means that I have to do it consistent enough for a long period of time until I get better. Okay? When I'm talking to my general English students, the people who are not in a hurry, I say, okay, you want to understand movies? Here's how you should do it. Go to your subscription in whatever, Disney, Netflix, pick up series that you love in any topic. I don't care what the topic is. Pick up those series with, well, you could use subtitle in English also, not in your first language. Watch 1 or 2 episodes per night for the next year. Year, not week, not month. Year. That means 365 episodes if you just watched 1 episode per night. So finish the first season and go to the next season. That should be the next thing, the last thing that you do before you go to sleep. after 1 year come back to me and say, oh, I still don't understand the movie or series more than 40%. It's impossible. Because you're training your ears every night before going to sleep. And it's not just improving your listening. You improve your vocabulary, you improve your comprehension, you learn a lot of things. You learn phrasal verbs from series. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Like one of them is just, you also improve your accent. But it's a long process, okay? So don't expect to improve your skill, not just listening. I'm talking about all other skills too. But in this live, we're talking about listening. Don't expect to improve it in a short time. It's gonna take a long time. You shouldn't have a lot of gaps. A lot of people study English, they forget it, they finish school or university, they go do their own thing, they come back after 3 years, they say, oh, I want to do a master's or I want to do a PhD, now I need a certificate in IELTS. Can I get it in like a month? I say, like, you disconnected yourself from English. You forgot everything. You forgot how to speak, how to write, how to read, how to listen. That's not how it works. It's like going to the gym. The day that you stop going to the gym, your body starts shrinking. Everybody who goes to the gym understands what I'm saying. You don't go to the gym for 1 week and you see how the body is fucked up. And you have to go back to your old, you have to again drop all the weights, start, well, after 1 week, not really, but after 1 month, you probably have to start from zero again. All the small weights. The body forgets. Again, the mind forgets too. If you don't keep listening, this is a forever process, by the way. If English is not your first language, you have to practice it for the rest of your life. Period. And if you have a test, based on the strategies that I talked about, you have to do them consistently for a couple of months before the test. Okay? Now, if there is any questions, I would be happy to answer your questions. If there is no questions, I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna wait for a second. If you have any questions, type in the chat. If you want to come up to the live, I will bring you to the live to ask your question. But if it's related to the listening, you can send a request if you want to actually come up to the live. So that's basically the top 10 most important strategies. I hope you enjoyed it. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to now take, let's see. Okay, first I'm going to see if there is a question. If you have a question, type it in the comment section. If you want to come up to the live, you can also do that. Okay, I'm gonna go to the, where is my camera change? Here we go. Okay. Let me see. If you have any questions, type it in the chat. I have one request from Marco. Marco, you want to come up to speak? Okay, I want to bring you up. Okay, so I'm gonna bring a couple of you up. Just quickly, if your question is related to speaking exams, okay? If it's not related to a speaking exam, please don't send requests. To see if you have any questions. I think I have to Okay, do I have any requests here? I don't know what happened. I couldn't bring Marco up. Let me check any other requests or questions. All right. I think we don't have any. All right, so I'm gonna go, guys. It's Friday night. I hope you enjoyed this live. Again, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat or in the comment. I'm gonna post this, save this, and you can watch it later. Apply these techniques that I mentioned today, and your listening will definitely get better. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later.